Let's move on to the AFC North. We still have a coming in hot. Scotty's hottest coming in hot.
So hot.
I'm not going to lie. I'm getting my popcorn popped in a little bit so I can sit here and listen to it because he has a massive one coming in tonight. You're not going to want to miss it. He is fired up. So let's talk about the AFC North Division. A lot of you guys, a lot of you have some vested interests, reckoning Steelers. You got the Bengals for football wife. You got, and then you got some Cleveland Browns and Ravens and sprinkled in the mix too. But here we are, the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals representing last season in the Super Bowl, coming in at number 2 behind the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are favorites to win this NFC or AFC North, plus 170, but the Bengals are right behind. Bengals made some nice moves in the offseason to bolster that offensive line. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But plus 170 for the Ravens, plus 185 for the Bengals at number 2. Then you got Cleveland plus 260. And then you got Pittsburgh plus 950. I'm not going to lie. I think Pittsburgh is so undervalued when I'm looking at these numbers. For some reason, I just feel like Pittsburgh is one of those teams that is always kind of in the mix. I don't know why. I mean, over Cleveland. I'm thinking and I guess Deshaun Watson, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I mean, that's coming down the pipeline tomorrow. We're going to talk about that in this division.
Say the number on Pittsburgh one more time, Chris. Sorry. Because I got the other 3, but what was the number on Pittsburgh?
Plus 950. To win the division. I mean, they're not going to win the division. Let's just put it. But do I think they're as bad as they are listed here? So Cleveland's plus 260, Pittsburgh plus 950.
Chairman in the chat, I'm surprised there's a line on Cleveland. Did I miss a suspension decision?
It's
you have not
happening tomorrow.
But everything that's come out is saying it will come out tomorrow. So tomorrow, Monday, August 1st, we likely, not for sure, but likely get a decision from the arbitrator and the case on Deshaun Watson, and we finally get, well, who knows, there could be an appeal. I don't know how it all works, but some sort of resolution tomorrow. I hope he's suspended for 4 to 5 years. But I take the under on that, guys. I take the under on that one.
So let's just stick it with it there. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. Let's kick off with them. Yeah, I mean that's what we're on the subject, right? Might as well.
I want to make fun of 3 of the 4 teams in this division.
Well, you might have the opportunity right now to do that. So we got the Chicago. So we have Cincinnati. Let me pull up the Browns here. Actually, no, they don't even have a win total over under yet. No, they're not even listed.
And they shouldn't be. Why? There's no way. No reputable sportsbook would list the Browns at this point without knowing the situation with Watson.
But
that'd be idiotic.
So obviously, key additions are Deshaun Watson, who's going through the litigations, and he settled out all those cases. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there. If you don't know what's going on with that, go look it up. You can find all that all over the internet. But he got a massive contract, unrightfully so. Jacoby Brissett obviously brought in as well to be a backup in case there are some issues with Deshaun Watson missing some games. Then you also have Amari Cooper acquired from the Cowboys, and then Jakeem Grant from the Bears, wide receiver from the Bears. Departures, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper went their separate ways to the Saints and the Titans. Key draft additions, they drafted David Bell and Jerome Ford. But Deshaun Watson is the biggest factor in this one, right? Deshaun Watson, regardless of what you think of him as a quarterback or whatever, or as a person, he's an awful person. Let's just put it out there. That's just what it is. He's a good quarterback in this league, and we've seen what the potential of him can be. So I I think that there's going to be a suspension here. We'll tweet about it. We'll talk about it on our socials. Follow our socials. Make sure you're following those. Reckoning, can you throw those in the chat one more time? Thank you. You are incredible, by the way. Shout out to Reckoning, our best mod in the world, our only mod in the world.
Which makes you the best. Reckoning.
Roger.
Yep.
Makes you the best.
So, Scotty, they have them finishing third in this division, even without the news of Deshaun Watson. What do you think? And I'm going to take a code yellow while you start talking about this. Code yellow.
Cleveland's impossible to project. Even if we knew Deshaun Watson's story, if Deshaun Watson was starting, had no issues and was playing every game, I'd have a difficulty with him moving into this roster. Everyone loves this roster, thinks it's an elite roster, and I'm like, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. This roster is good, but not great. Not great. And it's kind of the same, like they made the trade for Amari Cooper, but quite frankly, Amari Cooper is unreliable, gets hurt at times, and has great days and off days. I don't think Amari Cooper's like some game-breaking wide receiver. They lost Landry, they were replaced with Cooper. I think that's an upgrade, but it's not a huge upgrade in my mind. They re-signed some guys like Clowney and Njoku, who hasn't been a difference maker. They trade for Winovich from the Patriots, but anytime the Patriots are willing to trade a guy, you should just throw him in the trash because he's already trash, because every time they trade a player, that player from the Patriots becomes trash. I don't know. Like the Cleveland Browns, I hope they lose every game because they sold their soul to a player that didn't deserve it, and they basically knew they weren't going to get Watson, so then they guaranteed a ridiculous amount of money in order to get Watson, because they're a poverty franchise and they're desperate and they're sad, and it makes me sad, Chris. It makes me sad that they gave him this contract, they gave this man this deal that didn't deserve it, and quite frankly, I hope they lose every game they play this year, but projecting him, there's no way. Well, we'll see the suspension, but I'd be shocked if Cleveland finishes top 2. Even if Watson plays half the season, I don't care, or more than that. Like, this team has to build up, and Watson's not exactly like just like a dime thrower. He needs to get in with the system. He needs to have time. I know he's in training camp right now, but like once he's suspended, like things are cut off, and it's going to take time. This team should just forget about 2022.
Yeah, they're honestly, I could see them finishing last in this division, and that might. I mean, a lot of people are down on Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is good. We'll talk about them next year, but I just don't think Cleveland, even when they had, Baker was fine when they were there. I mean, obviously they couldn't get anything going with him, and they had some talent. They had OBJ, they had Jarvis Landry, they had a nice running game, they had a decent defense. They stacked the team. Everyone is talking about them going to the Super Bowl, especially in Cleveland. And where did that end up? That was when they were. There was no drama and no suspensions for your best quarterback. What is Cleveland? They're nothing. I think they're a trash team. When Watson comes and plays a full season, maybe next year is their kind of starting point after this crazy distraction, which is justify this awful thing that's happening. Next year's their year to actually be considered a team that's worth talking about, right? OBJ would fit nice with Baltimore, says G Girl. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore. People love running back quarterbacks.
but then Lamar would have to learn how to throw intermediate routes outside the numbers, and he's never done that in his career. So
true. Let's move on to Pittsburgh. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh, I think Reckoning was talking a lot about this on his stream earlier. By the way, Reckoning, we need to get more people into Reckoning stream. He has a great show that he does with some of his buddies, and Helv and and Ducky and all those guys in there. So make sure you go check them out. Put your link in there and make sure that we can support you guys in your stream. But let's dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mitch Trubisky. We got Mitch Trubisky popping in here. Obviously,
do we though?
But with some of the things that we've been seeing, it sounds like Mason Rudolph has been shining a little bit, which I don't know if that doesn't fare well for what Mitch Trubisky was brought in to do. Kenny Pickett obviously was the big draft pick in the this last NFL draft, and he has the tiniest hands on earth. So, all right. So the quarterback situation is in flux in Pittsburgh. Here's the thing. You lose Big Ben Roethlisberger, right? He's gone. He didn't have a lot left at the end. So almost anything is an upgrade at this point. You lost Juju Smith-Schuster. He went to your boys, the Kansas City Chiefs. You lost James Washington, went to the Cowboys, which is a nice pickup for Cowboys. Eric Ebron, the tight end, he's gone. And your additions, again, for the draft, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, Calvin Austin in the round 1, 2, and 4. But I think the biggest battle that everyone's looking at is the quarterback position here. And I think regardless of who gets it, even if it's Mason Rudolph, you're still looking at a guy who can get it done. And I mean, here's the thing. You still got Najee Harris there running the ball. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, maybe if he grew up, do you think Chase Claypool is like matured over the offseason, Scotty?
I think Chase Claypool is fine. I'm not worried about him. He's a good wide receiver. Not great, but good.
He had his maturity issues last year.
That's the least of the Steelers' problems.
So I think they can compete. I mean, here's the thing. TJ Watt on defense is your stud. TJ Watt can win you games by himself. And he's actually a guy that can really make a difference on this team. So anytime you have him back there, Cam Hayward, Devin Bush, Miles Jack, you got a nice little defense there. I mean, this is a division that grinds out games. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can grind out games this year. They're over under right now, their win total for this season. Let's pull it up here. I believe it is. Yep, here it is. 7.5 and minus 105 at 7.5. So there you go. Scotty, what do you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Man, I think the Steelers are funny. It's kind of embarrassing. It's embarrassing right now. You had Mason Rudolph on your roster as a backup to Big Ben, who not great last year, right?
Nope.
But you got to start Big Ben. It's a whole thing. He's been obviously won two Super Bowls for you. Great. Thank you, JK, for the woo. And then you sign or trade or whatever it was for Trubisky. And then you take the only quarterback in the first round and Kenny Pickett. And every report I've seen out of camp, literally your wide receivers, the report I've seen is from your own wide receiver, talking about how accurate Mason Rudolph is. No one's talking about Trubisky. No one's. Everything I've seen about Kenny Pickett is it's been real bad. It's been real bad so far with Kenny Pickett. Listen, it's early. He's not going to start the season. There's no chance Kenny Pickett is going to start the season. And I want to say he's young, but he's not that young, Chris. Kenny Pickett was an awful first-round pick, and Pittsburgh is going to regret incredibly drafting that man. Beyond that, this is a team that had no business making the playoffs last year and did. So, listen, Tomlin's an elite head coach. He's a rah-rah guy. He will make the players believe, and he will get them on board. And he's elite, the elite of the elite at that. X's and O's. well, he's fine. He's okay at, but as far as like a rah coach, if you want a guy to make you believe in your system and what you're doing and everything like that, and keep you on board, even if you're losing, Mike Tomlin's that guy. He's that guy. But this team's embarrassing right now. You bring on Trubisky and you draft a first-round quarterback, and there's a potential that the guy you already had on your roster is the starter? You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Mason Rudolph beats out Trubisky and Pickett? Why I had Trubisky? Why? And then, quite frankly, listen, I'm not advocating for first-round picks always starting. Kenny Pickett can't beat out Mason Rudolph? We know what Mason Rudolph is. And so I looked up, someone was, I forget the wide receiver that said he's so accurate. I think it might have been Claypool. I don't remember. And then it was like, oh, he was the best player this day in camp. I looked it up. He was like accurate, but he threw for like 5 yards per attempt. It was embarrassing. The quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is a dumpster fire, and that's why I cannot get on board with them.
This will be similar to what we saw in New Orleans last year, right?
Yeah, and quite frankly, in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh could get lucky and overachieve again and make the playoffs somehow, some way, based off of their defense being pretty good. Listen, obviously, you have T.J. Watt, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick, you got some corners, you got really good coaching. I get that, but Pittsburgh is a dumpster fire right now at the quarterback position, and their first-round quarterback is not going to save the day. In fact, he's third in the pecking order right now. There's no doubt about that. He looks like trash so far.
It's going to be interesting.
But what I will say, Reckoning just mentioned, Claypool is hyping everything. Every highlight I've seen out of Pittsburgh is about George Pickens. George Pickens, the wide receiver they took out of Georgia, is a psycho and a problem off the field. But on the field, if he can keep his head straight,
he's a psycho.
George Pickens. No, I've heard some things that I can't talk about George Pickens. Not great off the field. On the field, George Pickens is elite of the elite, and think about that, Reckoning. That's actually George Pickens is the most talented player outside of T.J. Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick, maybe on offense. That's all you need to pay attention to this year, Reckoning. Pay attention to what George Pickens can do and pray that he doesn't do something stupid off the field.
I mean, you kind of left that cliffhanger right there. I mean, now I'm worried about it. Like, I don't even want to mess. Like, he's that high risk, high reward guy for fantasy. Okay, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I will never talk about it, Chris. But that dude's
maybe when we're offline and you can chat about it.
Nope, I can't tell you offline, Chris. I was sworn to secrecy.
Okay.
He's a bit of a head case.
Okay, fair enough. All right, if it's that bad. Ravens really favored.
He fell. Pickens would have been drafted way higher.
OBJ would fit in. Yeah. Let's see. Jack was great addition. Stole Calvin Austin from the Ratbirds. We don't talk about Mason Rudolph. We don't talk about Mason.
He works better with like Drew Lock. We don't talk about Drew. No.
Austin also had a couple highlights. 61-yard TD. Yeah. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens next. Ravens set over 10.5 is their over under total. Plus 100 for the over. So you're getting plus money for being able to get the Ravens to win 11 games here. So there's that. Now, the Ravens are favored to win this just slightly over Baltimore, which is kind of crazy, but you're also getting J.K. Dobbins back, Gus Edwards back. They got Mike Davis in the offseason. So they're obviously going all heavy on the running game, right? They're a running team, run first. They love that from their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. That's what he does. He leads the league in rushing from a quarterback standpoint. So, fantasy, hey, take Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, from a quarterback standpoint, running organization like the Ravens and trying to win a division, I think, and his contract, football wife, yeah, I think it's still up in the air. They're still trying to work through the details. They're trying to like figure that out, right? But you still have one of the best tight ends in the league, Mark Andrews, who I think is a nice tight end. He can always get it done. Defensively, they have Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Marcus Peters, who's been injured quite a bit, right? But here's the thing. They struggle with injuries, right? They lost a lot of guys early. Get it.
Yep.
I get it. So there's that whole side of things. But I think when it comes to this division, I mean, you and I, we've always kind of been down on Lamar Jackson overall. Is this the year? Do they take these odds and win the division? And I mean, you got nice value on the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl.
Listen, I actually probably lean the over on the regular season bet on the Ravens, and that's not a testament to how I feel about the Ravens as a championship winning team. Chairman of the board said Tomlin is probably, going back to the Steelers real quick, Tomlin is probably the most underrated head coach in the NFL. I trust him to go with who he thinks legit gives him the best shot to win now. I will argue Tomlin is the best coach to take a team that is below average and make them a playoff team. I know he's won a Super Bowl, but I don't know if Tomlin might be the best in the league at that. And he's an elite coach for that reason. But if he takes a good team to make them great, I don't know if because then it's not as much rah-rah. He's very much a rah-rah guy. Yep. He makes you believe in him and what he's saying, but I don't know if his X's and O's are elite. I don't believe in that. So there's a distinction there. But in a way, Chairman, I agree with you. Reckoning Scotty, I heard from a little birdie that you like Lamar Jackson on our stream. And Football Wife's, what's up with Lamar's contract? So yeah, love Lamar Jackson. That's why since the start of this birth of this stream, I've said he's never going to win a Super Bowl. And it's because I love him. It's because I'm looking out for Lamar. I want to set expectations low for you, Lamar, to protect you. What's up with his contract? Lamar has no representation. He's representing himself. He's eyeing himself, I guess. No one knows what's going on there because you have to get in the head of Lamar Jackson, and no one can do that. The Ravens, though, Harbaugh is an elite coach.
He is.
You get healthy. You get Lamar Jackson healthy. Likely, Lamar Jackson, when he's healthy, you can think whatever, but he's an elite quarterback at winning regular season football games. I think he has the second best winning percentage once you cross a barrier outside of Patrick Mahomes in regular season games in the history of the NFL. So there's that. So I think he wins a lot of regular season games. He's got Mark Andrews. Not a lot else on the outside. We'll see. Rashad Bateman maybe can be that guy. Obviously, they traded away their other dude to Arizona that I'm drawing a blank. Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Who had some drop problems, issues last year. And this team was beat up last year. You get Marcus Peters, who was out all last year in the secondary. This team is going to be good in the regular season. They are, if they stay healthy, which they're going to be healthier than last year because they were the least healthy team in the league by far last year. So they're going to be much improved. They might win the division. I get why they're favored. I get all of that. It doesn't mean anything because I don't trust this team in the playoffs for 1 second. So it's irrelevant.
I just don't think they had the recipe for me. They're not a team that I would ever feel comfortable like saying, yeah, they're going to contend for a Super Bowl or an AFC championship, like make it all the way. And like, I just don't. There's so many. The AFC guys, if you're living under a rock, the AFC is so stacked. And even as good as Baltimore is, I just don't see them stacking up even to the one division rival in there right now that made a Super Bowl last year when it's the Bengals. Let's get into the Bengals. So
I'll skip the Bengals. No one here in the chat wants to hear about the Bengals.
We only have our Football Wife's countdown clock sponsoring our show going with the Bengals here. So we got to hook up Football Wife with at least a little bit of a sprinkle on the Bengals. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
let's talk about who they lost. Riley Rife, CJ. I can't say his Usama. They're gonna really miss Ogunjobi on the inside, on the defensive interior. Trey Wayne's retired. Like,
let's see. So we're saving the best for last for you, Football Wife. The best for last. This is gonna close out. At least it could be worse, right? We could have forgot about your team altogether, like the Falcons. I mean,
Usama.
So big year for the Cincinnati Bengals last year. Now, Cincinnati Bengals had a lot to look forward to, right? Going into the season, and they exceeded those expectations. They have even more expectations going on this year. So they got Lael Collins from the Cowboys, offensive lineman, which again was a big piece of what they were struggling with in, their entire season, right? They were having trouble on that offensive line. They went out and got Alex Kappa, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got tight end Hayden Hurst from the Atlanta Falcons. So they kind of filled that spot with Uzoma. Uzoma, says Reckoning? Yeah.
Well, we have some people saying Uzoma, and then we have other people saying Uzama. So I don't know what it is, guys. And quite frankly, he's not good enough to care that much about.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst is the one that they replaced and they got from Atlanta. So, Joe Burrow, obviously, he had his injury-shortened rookie season, came back. His ascension has happened quite fast when it comes to being able to make a nice little jump in the division. Now, if you're looking at the Bengals, they have a lot of talent, right? So if you're looking at their depth chart, I mean, Joe Mixon, fantastic. Obviously, one of the better running backs to hand the ball off to. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd might be one of the better wide receiver cores in the NFL. I mean,
that's a top. From 1 to 3, that's a top 3 wide receiver core in the league.
It's incredible. So there's no shortage of talent when it comes to the weapons that Joe Burrow will have at his disposal. You have a lot of improvement on that offensive line, as we mentioned, with Lael Collins and Kappa coming in as additions to this one. So keeping Joe Burrow on his feet and giving him time, that was one of the big things that he did not have last season. Their defense, you still got Eli Apple. You still have Eli Apple in the back. Did you see Eli Apple get burned?
You stole my thunder there, Chris.
Did you see him get burned by Jamar Chase? And
yeah, I saw it.
Sorry, Football Wife. You have to deal with Eli Apple.
And burned is calling it lightly because he was beat by like 8 yards on that.
So he might be a liability, but you can keep him. What's going on with Bates?
Bates, I was gonna get into that, but
go ahead, dive in.
Bates is
go ahead.
Yeah,
over under 9.5 wins, minus 130 for the over.
So 9.5 is a number casuals are gonna see that and bet the over 100 times over, right? Like, so that number scares me, and that scares me in general with the Bengals. Like, why is it only 9.5? The Bengals had a clear issue on they made a Super Bowl with a obvious issue on their team last year, and it was clearly the offensive line. Not hard to figure out, and they, to their credit, addressed it at least somewhat in this offseason. You talked about Kappa, you add Karras, you most importantly get Lael Collins from the Cowboys to play offensive tackle. So you address that in some regard. The offensive line certainly will be better. How much better we'll see, but definitely better than they were last year. And that was clearly the weak link of a team that still made the Super Bowl despite that. With that, I have some concerns. They were in a lot of close football games in the playoffs and won each of those. That's hard to repeat. Okay. Jesse Bates, as mentioned, I believe by G-Girl here. Jesse Bates is concerning. Like, you have an elite safety and you offer him everything reported at least is a incredible low ball deal. He's on the franchise tag this year, so he can't go anywhere, but you're holding him captive. He's not anywhere near training camp. To me, it's not concerning that he hasn't signed. It's more concerning the reports of how bad of a deal he was offered, reportedly. It could be wrong, but it sounds like Jesse Bates was underballed by a Bengals, don't take this the wrong way, football wife, by an organization that is known to be one of, if not the cheapest organizations in football. They're not known for paying their players. Listen, yes, they're going to take care of Burrow. Burrow's not going anywhere in my mind. I'm not worried about that, but like some of those side pieces, like a Jesse Bates, who's incredibly important to that defense.
You got to pay.
You got to pony up a little. You got to pay. And they're at times hesitant to do so. I don't get it with the Jesse Bates thing. Like, at least offer him a realistic deal, because then it doesn't look bad if he doesn't take it. But to offer him what is reported out there is kind of embarrassing, quite frankly. And I don't blame Bates for being mad at all for that. Now, saying that, the Bengals, you talking Mixon with Chase and Higgins and Boyd, that's stupid. Hayden Hurst can be fine replacing he who will not be named, the tight end that left the team, that there's debate in the chat on how to pronounce that name, so I'm not even going to try because I'll be wrong regardless, Chris.
Yeah, we're great at pronouncing names on this show.
The offense is going to be great. The defense played pretty well down the stretch and got hot at the right time. Eli Apple is literally the worst re-signing I've ever seen. That's a problem. Eli Apple shouldn't touch a field this year for any team, but here he is somehow re-signed by the Bengals. So the Bengals are going to be very, very good. They're going to make the playoffs. I won't guarantee that they're going to win this division, but they will make the playoffs. What they do in the playoffs, the AFC is so stacked, Chris. It's hard to say. It's about timing, it's about luck, it's about a lot of factors at that point. Do I think they're gonna make the Super Bowl again? No. But saying that doesn't mean I think they're gonna be a worse team. It just means like it's obviously hard to do that even if you're really, really good from year to year.
It's going to be a gauntlet no matter what team you are in the AFC. When it comes to sleepers and breakouts, keep an eye on Hurst. He's a first-round pick in 2018. Season removed from 56 catches for 571 yards, 6 touchdowns in Atlanta. You know, he's going to get a nice little step into Uzama, I think, right?
I said he who will not be named.
He was underrated last year in this offense. So, but also keep an eye on Mixon. People are going to be overdrafting Mixon a ton. He had a lot of touches last season, and we've seen what happens when you get a workhorse running back with a lot of touches. You have injuries that really start pouring on. So Mixon had 419 last season. Maybe wanting to just keep an eye on, drafting him too high if you're, in certain rounds, because, he's going to get a lot of usage. But they also have a way to stretch out the field and kind of open things up for him. So I do like that upside more so, in my opinion. But just keep an eye on the usage, right? Keep an eye on that. But let's see. This is going to hurt to say the Steelers are the new Bungles. Ownership is not willing to pay for good assistance while keeping the head coach around for too long. Yeah, totally reckoning.
It's interesting. We've got a lot of Steelers in the chat in last year and this year talking about wanting to move on from Tomlin, and
I don't get it.
That's super interesting to me.
I'm not. I guess you have to be there, maybe.
I like Tomlin. To me, I said I don't know if he takes good to great, but he takes okay to good, which is kind of what the Steelers are a lot of times.
I mean, what he's done with Antonio Brown and masking that, and Roethlisberger and getting success out of
He hides a lot.
He puts Band-Aids on things that you don't necessarily think are Band-Aid or think are an issue until a year later, and you're just like, man, he really did a great job with that. And you're just like, maybe you have to be there.
I didn't even see that. I said this without seeing Chairman's comment, and Chairman and I are always on the same board. But he's like, I didn't know Tomlin lost the faith of the people in Pittsburgh. LOL. Interesting. Yeah, like I feel like Pittsburgh needs to get a dose of like an awful football coach, like because they historically, they went from Coward to Tomlin, like, and before that, like they don't often move on from coaches, and they have a ton of great coaches in their history, so they haven't had a stretch of like bad coaching hires.
It's mixed.
Maybe it's time.
You have people who think he's a top 2 coach, and some who thinks he's always been trash. That's a big discrepancy. That's like,
I was like, can we put him somewhere in the middle?
That's a huge difference there. Reckoning.
I've never ranked coaches, and people often don't, but Tomlin's gotta be top 10. He has to be top 10.
Yeah, easily. If he, 100%.